to get in, but because his principles took a little bit more priority than his checkbook, we all know what he's doing. I think that what he's done is fine and noble, but he had other opportunities to get in there. And then after 3 years, you set your price tag so high where nobody will even touch you, when there are more economical ways to fill the backup position with guys that maybe are far less qualified, but there is a hard salary cap. So I think Colin, to me, is in that in-between kind of thing where, okay, Colin, you knew what was going to happen to you, but you did it anyways. When you had your opportunities, common sense didn't prevail as much as you thought it would, and you took your situation for granted. So we could pick this discussion up even next Wednesday. Another note that we didn't talk about earlier in the pre-production is one that I really kind of like, and that the NFL and the NFLPA are looking at a 17-game season. They're close to getting a collective bargaining agreement. The thing I like about it is two ways. Number one, okay, will the Jacksonville Jaguars get a true home game, or do they end up deciding to play their hand and maybe they can squeeze the league out of 2 games on the road to try to help? You never know, because Shad Khan's such a brilliant owner. Or what's so nice about the deal is now you finally get to put it, like they're talking about, putting everybody on the road once, so the Packers won't lose that that one home game. And can you imagine how much money would be made to see teams like the Packers, the Steelers, and a lot of the teams that don't want to give up a home game? That, to me, is a grand slam home run. If indeed the 17-game season allows that everybody has 8 home games, or do the Jaguars just try to take the cat approach? Okay, like they are cats anyhow. Hey, maybe we get 2 of these London games and be content with 7. A lot of unique aspects of this whole thing. But you know darn well, I would call this the NFL's version of the Packers rule. We'll get you there one way or the other.
Yeah, I think that a 17-game schedule could be kind of nice. It would mean that everyone would have to have some sort of... Also, I think it would mean that if you're going to do that, I think it would work best if that means that everyone would have to have some sort of neutral field type of game in order to keep everything even. That's the only way I think it could work, which means you'd have to have more London games. The London series would have to expand. Maybe do a couple more games in Mexico City. It's an interesting way to go about it. I think another interesting thing that has been discussed is possibly if they do move to whether it's 17 or an 18-game season, possibly going with 2 bye weeks. I think that would be another good thing just for the players in general, especially with all the complaints about the Thursday night games. If you can figure out a way to schedule Thursday night games for teams directly after a bye week, I think that would make players much more amenable to playing in them.
You know what? Excellent points all the way around. They really are. I mean, first of all, you're eliminating a preseason game, which I'm sure is part of the deal anyways. 2, the player, probably I wouldn't be surprised if the roster sizes increase a little bit, and they'll still have their practice squad. And then you have to wonder or not whether this kind of takes a bite out of the XFL a little bit too, which I know it will. I think I like a lot of what I believe is going to happen in this deal. And, if you can't put a team in London, why not add more games there, and then everybody wins all the way around?
Yeah, with the roster size, the thing that's always irritated me, which I think needs to be addressed in the collective bargaining agreement, is I want to say that the actual roster size for a team is like, was it a 52, 53-man roster? But you can only have 46 actually active, 46 or 48 actually active for a game on Sunday,
right,
for the weekend. So you have to have 5 inactive. Why do you have to have 5 inactive? If you would just fix that, I think that we'd be dealing with a lot less other issues with injuries and stuff if you just simply allowed teams to have all 53 of their players active.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, we'll learn more about this as it plays out. But I think you should have not only 53 active, you could still probably go ahead and add a 5 or 10 man practice squad anyways. It doesn't matter. They're going to be making so much money off of that. And again, that's where a league like the XFL would be sunk anyhow, especially with the insulting salaries that I'm starting to hear more guys dropping out, for the 10 games. But let's keep it on this theme here. And the fact that, you'll have one less preseason game. Everybody has to play on there. And then, of course, you talked about that. Okay, if you're playing on a Thursday, do you get 10 days off? Well, let's not lose sight of the fact that for years they've always had Thursday night games and you get 10 days off. But if they schedule makers do what they've got to do, the Thursday games are not as taxing as they are now. So I think it's a win-win all the way around. And again, you're going to get all your teams out there. And I still would call it, Ryan, the Green Bay Packer rule. I would. You're not going to get them to give up a game at Lambeau. You're not. So, so what they probably do is I'll be interested to see whether or not that game that they have, which would be the oddball game, results in a intra-conference game, not an inter-conference game.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah, I mean, your divisional games, but I think it's interesting, and of course down the road, it could be interesting to find out what your fantasy impact. That'll keep it more and more intriguing as time goes on. So,
yeah.
But I'm going to go say that it's a Green Bay Packer rule.
Alrighty.
All right. With that said, let's go ahead and talk about this week's games, and let's talk about the byes and the Green Bay Packers, the team we spoke about, the New York Giants, Seattle Seahawks, your hometown, and the Tennessee Titans, where I have family there, all get byes. And tomorrow night's Thursday night game features the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. Why the Browns are on prime time, I don't know, but hopefully if we won't see them more than once or twice a year, if at all, next year.
Well, the Thursday night games are scheduled out from the beginning of the year.
Right.
The only ones that are flexed are the Sunday night games. So Monday night and Thursday night are basically stuck.
Right.
It's the Sunday night ones that can actually be adjusted. As far as tomorrow night's game goes, with how good the Steelers have been playing and how bad the Browns' defense has been overall, I really don't see. I mean, I could see the Browns trying to keep this close, but the Steelers have been so good against running backs and against quarterbacks. Mayfield has played very poorly this year. Chubb and Hunt seemed to provide a pretty decent 1-2 combination last week, and so I still think that the Steelers are the more talented team and can pull the win out of this one. I have the Steelers winning. Probably, I think 21-14 is probably where I would put it.
Okay.
But in terms of fantasy, I think Rudolph is an okay streaming spot for quarterback. McDonald, I think, is a good streaming possibility at tight end. Really, the wide receivers in terms of the Steelers are all kind of a wash as to whether or not as to who is actually going to get the production. And so for me, I have Juju on one team, but I haven't actively tried to get him on any other team. So I think that's kind of really, I think the best positions to look at for this game in terms of fantasy, I think Chubb is a no-brain starter no matter what. Connor, I would be hesitant. He's more of a flex play. Rudolph is a streamable option, in my opinion, and McDonald is definitely a streamable guy for the tight end position.
All right, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh 27-10. I have no faith in the Cleveland Browns. I think that Baker Mayfield got lucky that he pulled out a 3-point win against Buffalo. Not the case with a Pittsburgh team that's starting to, what have they won, like 4 in a row now? They're, 5-4? Mike Tomlin to me would be my preferred choice if the season were to end tomorrow to be Coach of the Year. So a game that meant more to me before than it does now is the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. And obviously with Jeff Driscoll, it appears to be the starting quarterback. Unless Matthew Stafford heals quick, he would be playing against his hometown team, the Dallas Cowboys. What's your take on the Cowboys and Lions?
In this game, this should be all Cowboys. The Lions defense has given up the sixth most amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks, the second most to running backs, the ninth most to tight ends, the 12th most to wide receivers. Really, they've just been letting teams kind of walk through them. Even if you take just the last 4 weeks, last 5 weeks, the Lions have given up 4 points over projection to quarterback, almost 5 points over projection to running back. So they're giving up a ton of points. The Cowboys defense has been very stiff against quarterbacks and wide receivers. Wide receivers against the Cowboys lately have been 4 points under projection on average over the last 5 weeks. So the Cowboys defense has really stepped it up. It really has been their offense that's been shaky over the last 5 weeks. I think that really Prescott is a must start. Zeke, you're not going to sit him. Cooper should be in for a good game. I think that Gallup is a solid wide receiver 3 flex play in 12-team leagues. If you're in a bigger than 12-team league, I think that Randall Cobb could possibly be. He's a risky option, but I think that he could be like a wide receiver 4 flex play that could, if he gets another 100 yards, possibly a touchdown, is going to be a solid play. As far as the Lions go, I'm not trusting Driscoll. Even if it was Stafford, I would not want to stream him this week.
Right.
I think that the best option, really, in terms of Lions offense, is probably J.D. McKissick, and really he's more of a flex play than anything else. With Ty Johnson still not practicing, being in concussion protocol, it does not look like he is going to be available for this weekend. Perkins is more of a standard league play. McKissick, because of his ability to catch the ball, is more the PPR guy. And I still don't. I mean, I know it's a good matchup for Hawkinson. I still don't trust him to be anything more than a weak streamable option at tight end.
So score.
For the score, I've got 31-17 Cowboys.
You're nicer than I am. I'll go 35-17, and that will pay me. I hope I'm wrong. I see Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper having a field day against that Lions secondary. I really, really do. So do you sit Kenny Galladay, or do you play him anyways?
You play Kenny Galladay. He is their best wide receiver. Even in a tough matchup last week, I believe he still finished with a touchdown. So he is still a guy that I like. Again, he's the more complete receiver of the two between him and Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones is still more the deep route runner. Kenny Galladay does run deep routes, but he is also going to run more of the digs and slants and stuff that are a lot easier for a backup quarterback to hit.
So you still say that Galladay's a pretty good option no matter who's throwing the football?
Galladay is still going to be a solid option. I just say, don't be surprised if he only puts up low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3 numbers. But you still got to play him because of his explosiveness.
Well, of course, depending on who you have on your team, too. So
That's true.
I mean, in my case, I got DeAndre Hopkins coming back from a bye. I got Godwin in there, and I'm trying to think of who else I have. But I got, I don't know. I have some pretty good horses in the league that I'm in. But, we'll have to see. That's where the flex player comes in. But, yeah, I still think that Amari Cooper should probably get no less than 30, 35 points in a matchup like this, where the Lions secondary, to me, will look like spaghetti. So
yep.
Let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars going up to Indianapolis to take on the Colts, who, by the way, lost to the Miami Dolphins last week.
Yeah. What a great call that was for me. No, I mean, honestly, no one thought that the Colts were actually going to lose that game, especially a home game, even with Brian Hoyer as quarterback. And Brian Hoyer showed why he's a backup quarterback. I think in this week, it's Foles' big return. I think it could be okay for Foles. The Colts have been pretty solid for the most part against the quarterback position. They've been really tough against the running backs. Causing running backs to score 5.5 points under projection on average over the last 5 weeks. So it could be a little tough sledding for Fournette. You're still going to start Fournette, but I see him as more kind of a running back 2, finishing kind of in that 15 to 17 range. As far as the wide receivers go, the Colts have been very tough against wide receivers. I think that it's still going to be the Chark and Westbrook show. Conley could get involved, but it all depends on how much rust Foles has. I would have a hard time trusting any of them to do much more than wide receiver 3, but would be surprised if they do end up putting better numbers. Just, you have to be prepared for a low floor with a quarterback coming off an injury from the last 8-9 weeks. So as far as the Colts go, really somewhat solid matchups across the board. The Jaguars have been pretty good over the last few weeks. They're middle of the road really against quarterbacks, running backs, really all positions. So Mac, you're still going to start. Expect him to be